and disadvantages. Let's start with the positives. Even before the current situation, there was a significant expansion of oil production underway, likely adding another 1,000,000 barrels per day within this year. Now, this increase is expected to be about half due to recent events. Given the current circumstances, this is a positive development. However, it falls far short of what is needed. Even with maximum efforts to bring in all available resources, we're still looking at a deficit of over 3,000,000 barrels per day this year, and possibly up to 5,000,000 barrels per day next year. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where oil prices remain below $170 in this situation. Considering the present lack of popularity of the Biden administration and the upcoming midterm elections in the United States, it is highly likely that the U.S. will impose a ban or at least restrictions on oil exports to detach the American energy price environment from the global one. This move will maintain relatively low and stable prices in the U.S., but it will eliminate another 3,000,000 barrels per day of consumption and production capacity from the rest of the world. Consequently, the rest of the world will have to cope without American and Russian oil simultaneously, drastically altering the dynamics. Now, let's shift our focus. If the U.S. removes itself from the global energy market, Europe faces an immediate challenge. Russian crude that was previously heading west was a significant source for them. The Europeans now have a straightforward choice. They can request some aid from the United States, and the U.S. may send refined products to alleviate the situation, but it won't be nearly enough. Hence, the Europeans will seek an alternative energy source, and they will turn towards the south. They will engage with their former colonies across the African continent to redirect those flows northward to Europe instead of eastward to Asia. Next in line is India. With minimal Russian, African, and North American crude, India suddenly confronts a global shortage greater than its total production. However, India is strategically positioned, being the closest major country to the Persian Gulf. Any tankers leaving the Persian Gulf must pass by India to reach East Asia. In this scenario, India stands as the only country in the world with the military, economic, and political capacity to interact with the Persian Gulf from a position of strength. Therefore, it is highly likely and necessary for India to engage with Kuwait, the Emirates, and the Saudis to arrange a direct transfer deal. Prices will likely be uncomfortably high, but there won't be an actual supply issue. The major concern will be for countries further east. When all this oil is withdrawn from the market, the entire shortage will fall onto the last country in the line, and that's China. We might already be witnessing China's last years of manufacturing dominance, as without a stable energy supply, everything else becomes inconsequential. This poses a dire situation for China. Lastly, let's touch on another aspect. Considering the damaged Russian crude, infrastructure disruptions in Ukraine and Russia, reduced wheat and agriculture supplies, dysfunctional sources in Kazakhstan, and the abnormal oil levels passing through Russia, alongside post-QE inflation hitting hard and China facing city shutdowns due to COVID waves, we are headed for challenging months ahead. Adding to this, the delay in the Russian push, anticipated infrastructure issues, and the approaching retirement of the baby boomer generation in the United States, we are indeed entering a period of serious concern. Particularly from mid-2022 onwards. Even bringing the oil situation back to its current state, as you previously mentioned, would take a year or two. Consequently, we are likely to experience a bleak situation over the next 2 to 3 years. Your outlook for the global economy in the next 12 to 24 months indicates a possible recession or even a depression. We are at a critical turning point where globalization is crumbling and demographics in numerous countries are shifting. We've long known, from a demographic perspective, that this decade would witness the failure of the old economic globalization model. The COVID pandemic accelerated the process, and Ukraine has now acted as a hard stop. This year marks the breakdown we've anticipated. It's crucial to remember that when the United States initially established globalization, it was a sort of bribe. It was an attempt to persuade countries to align with us against the Soviets, It allowed participation in supply chains, manufacturing, and access to any market, including the American one. In exchange, countries were expected to join us in opposing the Soviets. India chose not to participate and maintained a relatively pro-Soviet stance. This means that when globalization collapses, India won't have to fall very far, as it never deeply integrated its economy into the international network. Moreover, with functional control over Persian Gulf energy access, India will undoubtedly experience some challenges, but it also possesses the advantage of controlling the gates to the Persian Gulf. It's unlikely that India won't leverage this position to secure some benefits, considering the drastic changes in the world we're heading towards. We all need to adapt our thinking to this evolving world. India is among the handful of countries that are reasonably well prepared, not for the current age, but for what lies ahead. All your competitors are on the other side of that spectrum.